looks!
We are talking Judas Ghost, a 2013 movie directed by Simon Pearce. Now this is actually based on a series of books by author Simon R. Green, who also did the screenplay of this movie. And the film is based on a concept called the Judas Goat. And you see what they did with the title there. You see Judas Goat, Judas Ghost, yeah, clever, eh? Anyway, this is a low-budget British one-location kind of haunted house movie, I suppose. And it focuses on a team of professional ghost hunters, as they are called to this particular kind of village hall, I guess, with the idea that it's somewhat of a kind of typical haunting, and they are trying to make a kind of training video for their kind of corporation, which seems to be some type of company which deals with the supernatural. So think Ghostbusters, I guess, but on a grander kind of scale. And it's a three-person team. Normally you have the kind of the tech guy, you've got like a psychic medium, and our kind of leader who is seemingly has some type of maybe supernatural power, but they're accompanied this time by a fourth member who is a like a veteran ghost hunter from another team that ended in tragedy, and he's kind of working as like the cameraman to do this kind of training video. But once they're in this village hall, they seem to be trapped. The door disappears, and there seems to be a very oppressive force kind of coming in for them from the outside, and they are trapped with a very dangerous entity. Now, what will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's discuss. So this is an interesting movie in regards to its tone, because it's a straight horror film, but it has some comedic edges to it, and some of the kind of the jokes, of which there are not too many, but there are a few, and they kind of are quite funny, admittedly, especially if you are familiar with horror movies, because it somewhat references some tropes that you may have seen in particular kind of horror films. The other thing I found quite interesting with this movie is our ghost hunter setup here is like they're very confident. This is like a proper ghost hunters, not like paranormal investigators. They are there, they know the ghosts exist, they're in there to kind of clear them and stuff, and everyone is like a proper professional. So think of like, as I said, this is why I made the reference to Ghostbusters, because, you know, think of like an exterminator or something like that. These are people who are trained to do this specifically, and they have done it. So the concept of ghosts is not a thing that they're trying to prove. They know that it's there and they're trying to get rid of it. We even get a little kind of preamble with kind of various types of entities that you can potentially come across in this movie. So they're very confident and very professional in their kind of approach, which gives this movie a little bit of a point of difference, I would say, when you're getting movies with a lot of, you know, paranormal investigators or ghost hunters and stuff. So that was kind of interesting. And the fact that we have this one location, but they do, without spoiling anything, they do actually have a trick up their sleeve with that to kind of make this one location represent different locations, is what I'll kind of say there. Which again gives our ghost hunters, exterminators, some real threat. Well, like they haven't legitimately come across this before, so this is like a whole new ball game to them. The performances are quite strong, mostly. We only have a cast of 4 people, but you know, they all come across, again, I mean, they come across as professionals in their field, and I think the performances are somewhat comedic, but I think that because they're coming across so confidently, they're very personable, and their personalities are quite strong. So that I quite liked. It is a low budget movie, but I do feel they have a reasonable amount of scale, even though it is only taking place in one room. Again, I don't want to spoil anything to to make you feel that this kind of, the stakes are kind of quite high here. And the movie, I think, and this is a double-edged sword, which I'm going to come on to again, because this is based on a series of books. Obviously, we are literally, this is like a window into this world, and the world around it is you know, is quite large. There's kind of lots of things going on. There's many times where stuff is alluded to which has happened off screen, which I'm assuming is to do with these other books. So it does, but you know, you've got this kind of fully formed world, if you like. It is, again, a low budget movie, so the effects are limited. But I think there are occasions when I do think the effects look pretty good. It kind of looks like a TV show in some ways. It kind of, if you've watched Supernatural, the TV show, it's kind of like that. It reminded me a lot of that sort of TV show. But I think it's fine for a sort of a lower budget movie. Like I said, the concept here I think is quite unique. Unlike a lot of kind of haunted house movies in regards to some of its details of the plot, but also having some familiar elements as well that I think you can kind of gravitate to. So what doesn't work in this movie? Now, I've mentioned it already. I think this is part of the problem is that it being a movie based on a series of books. It feels like you are watching episode 9 of a series, if that makes sense, because it feels like, you know, you've got to just catch up almost, because this is a pre-established thing. They're all going to know each other, and this world is already established, and that's fine to a point. But the problem is I think we learn that this kind of agency or company, whoever it is they work for, are kind of viewing all this, what's going on, through cameras, but they're not sending help. So it's a little bit like a conspiracy and things like that. And I feel that is kind of mentioned, but nothing is really done with it in this sort of story. And again, I presume it's something in the books, but as a singular movie, you know, and again, if this was a TV show, I guess it would be like a through line, but it isn't. It's one film. So we have all this kind of stuff about how this company is kind of watching, but they're not sending help for some reason. And then they've got this one guy who's this veteran, and he's had kind of a similar experience or something like this. And again, we get a bit of exposition about it, but I don't know. To me, it was like, I think this needed to be a little bit better adapted from a book to a movie, because I think it relies a little bit too heavy on some of the kind of the aspects which are outside of this actual film, like things that happen maybe in these books that we never get to see in the film. So it feels a little bit not fully formed as a story, because it's introducing things and never paying them off. Now we have one character who is the tech guy, who is the most annoying character. Oh God, he was very, very irritating, I have to say. And he's meant to be this kind of cowardly tech guy, I get it. But man, they just overcooked it. And I think I suppose the actor, you know, he's just told what he's to do, really. I can't really blame him, although I found his character incredibly irritating. So yeah, he wasn't a huge fan of that, to be honest. There are some digital effects here that I don't think work. There's an instance where one of our characters is like looking out into this darkness. Then we kind of see this kind of face, a little bit like The Abyss. This kind of face come through the darkness, and it doesn't look particularly good. The guy, you know, because they end up being sort of face to face, and they never really look like they're actually looking at each other and things like that. So again, it has that somewhat of a TV feel in regards to some of the kind of the cheaper sort of digital effects that you'll sometimes see on like network TV, like Supernatural. So again, this very much feels like an episode of Supernatural. And then we got this old Judas ghost. Some bald guy with a little bit of zombie makeup. I think more could have been done with it, if I'm honest. For this big build-up, I gotta say, he was a little disappointing, visually speaking. There is an idea that there's more going on around it, but we get to see him as our kind of villain, so to speak. And he is just like a guy in grease paint. It's not all that impressive, I have to be honest with you. The concept is neat. I think I like the idea of where it's going. I think it's, but it just feels like it's part of a series, really, which I guess it is if it's a book. The movie's still a fun movie with some neat concepts. I think you know, it's has a sense of originality. It's got a little bit of a wicked sense of humour, and there are some quite fun scenes. So I will give this an above average mark of 6 out of 10, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.